Some parts of this team are built like a brick house, others held together with duct tape and optimism. We're breaking down the locks and the liabilities. It's sure bets and soft spots, and no one's getting off easy. I'm Rajiv. He's Justin. Here we go.
Welcome to the Bucky Report, your destination for all things Wisconsin Badgers. Authentic takes.
Oh my God.
Game analysis.
Touchdown Badgers! Ring one up!
And discussion from the fan perspective.
Woo-hoo!
Thanks for joining us and on Wisconsin.
Welcome to the Bucky Report. We are your hosts, Rajiv and Justin, back together on a Sunday evening to talk about all things Wisconsin Badgers. On today's show, we're going position by position and giving you the pulse on what we're most confident in, whether it's a standout player, the depth in the room, or even the coaching behind the scenes. But it's not all sunshine. We're also hitting on the soft spots, the lingering concerns, and the potential weak links that could spell trouble in 2025. We'll also cover the recent NCAA violations that popped up around the Wisconsin program and what they actually mean moving forward. And finally, recruiting discussion and updates with the 2026 class. We are the Bucky Report on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what we're doing, comment on the show, give us your feedback, give us likes, all that good stuff. Thank you for your support of the show. First and foremost, to you, my good friend Justin, to my own father, and to all the fathers out there listening, happy Father's Day. How are you?
Yeah, happy Father's Day to you too, and to everyone else out there listening. I'm doing all right. As I told you before we came on, my child abandoned me today. He decided to go over to his grandparents. He wants to sleep over there. Given that he's a young teenager, I decided you hang out with Grandma and Grandpa just as long as you can, because I know those days are probably going to be behind him before too long here.
That's a fair point. We went to brunch this morning at a new place that Mark Wahlberg started in Vegas called Fletcher. It's a Mexican buffet. Let me tell you about Mexican buffets. Fantastic. I love any Mexican food. Mexican was my favorite, but when you put it on a buffet, holy crap, it's good stuff.
I think I did it right now.
Sadly, the U.S. Open is in a rain delay. That is definitely a Father's Day tradition of watching the U.S. Open. I'm still want to be watching it, but it's in a bit of a rain delay right now. Nonetheless, so all right, Justin, let's get right into it. Badger and Bournemouth fan, happy Father's Day, guys. Thank you, my good friend Badger and Bournemouth fan. I always forget his real name. He's told me and I forgot. Put it in the chat. Except you just like the wrong team. How do you feel about Thomas Frank, by the way, Badger and Bournemouth? All right, so we're going to start with 2026 recruiting a little bit, Justin. We got a new commit this week. Zachary Taylor, the first safety in this class, 6'1", 182 pounds, out of Katy, Texas, composite 3-star, and coincidentally, Justin, the highest rated guy in this class, according to 247. My first question is, do you agree with that? Him being the highest, he's the only 89 we have in the class. And remind some of the fans, what do you like about Zachary Taylor?
I don't necessarily agree with it. I think the ranking is on point. I don't agree with him being the highest rated guy. I think there's a couple of guys you look at from a potential standpoint that are higher. You'd probably look at quarterback, obviously. I think that's a position that we're really going to take a look at and come back and be like that. And I think a guy like Reeder has a chance to be a really high-end player by the time he's done. I will say this. I like Taylor a lot. I think at safety, he gives you that kind of center fielder type that you have that can just cover a ton of ground on the back end. I really like this pickup. I think that anytime – the one thing we've noticed over the last two cycles is that they've really done a heck of a job of increasing the speed on the back end. Mm-hmm. And I think we can honestly say it's one of the major issues with this team. We have guys that may test okay when they do their draft prep and stuff like that, but none of them show. There wasn't a lot of guys that I looked at in the past 10 years, other than maybe who was the guy out of Florida that started at corner and moved. He was a Gary Anderson guy.
I don't remember.
Okay, it doesn't matter. He was a 4-3 guy, and he looked like a 4-3 guy on the back end. I really think that we've struggled to get guys that are burners on the back end, and I think that that's something that's changing. I also think that this kid isn't afraid to come up and tackle a little bit. I just think that he's better at playing center field. So I'm really looking forward to having more of that type of player on this roster.
Agreed. Definitely good athleticism, good playability. I feel like he's a good tackler, and I think he will fit in well. Played some corner in high school, played mostly corner in high school, of course, but I think he's going to be transitioning to safety, which makes a lot of sense. We got a couple question here from Jane Toronto. Justin, how does Taylor compare to Jeter?
I personally prefer Jeter as a corner. I think Taylor's a little, and Ryan and I talked about this one night when I was trying to put my perspective together on him. He had the perfect word. I think he's a little stiff. Taylor, when he's just not super fluid when he's up in coverage at corner, but I don't think that affects him at all on the back end. Jeter, I think, has a chance to be like, he looks like a boundary corner to a T for me. He's a guy who can really run, and he looks like he's just got super fast feet and is really able to stick to a guy. I like him at corner. They like him. It seems like the staff prefers him at safety. If we were going to take a second corner in this class, that's the guy I would say. I just think that's how good I feel about Jeter as potentially at the corner position.
Yeah, I agree with you. And Jay in Toronto, if you go back and watch last weekend's episode, if you haven't watched it, we actually break down film of both Taylor and Jeter. So go check that out. Yeah, definitely looks more like a corner guy for sure. Zach Bartz, boy, I don't know about this, Zach. Taylor could be a DeGene Light. I mean, DeGene Light, by the way, is a top-notch player with his athletic profile. DeGene had elite ball skills and vision, among other things, but Taylor's speed and versatility are nice bonuses. Could be a cornerback or ball hawk free safety. Look, Cooper DeGene, of course, of Iowa, then Philadelphia Eagles. Like, he is a fantastic, fantastic safety. One of the best players we've seen in the Big Ten in the last 5 to 7 years. What do you think about this? DeGene Light, do you see this at all, Justin?
No, I don't think he has that type of explosiveness. And by explosiveness, I mean, I don't think he's a guy that I think has that level of just like bouncy athletic profile. Where DeGene looked like a really fluid athlete on the back end. I just don't see that necessarily with him. That doesn't mean that his ceiling is low at all. I think his ceiling is all conference type, free safety at Wisconsin. I don't see a guy who is just a dominant player in terms of the way Cooper DeJean was, or DeJean, whatever it is, at Iowa. I just think that guy came up and he basically shut down a side of the field. If he gets there, I absolutely think, I'd love to see that. Wisconsin could really use one of those guys. It's been a bit since we've had a guy that you'd absolutely call just an absolute freak show on the back end. We could use a guy like that to kind of muck things up for some teams.
Will Hanna says Taylor's a 91 and a 4-star, in my opinion. That's 91.
I would argue it.
I would argue it. I don't know if he has quite those ball skills. I don't know. He doesn't look as
at safety. I think that he could project that way. I don't see that corner.
Fair. Mr. October, good friend of the show again. A lot of people in here in the chat. Thank you so much for the comments. With Taylor in, good shot for Washington, still in on Ford, probably out on C. Johnson, and lost Polk to Rutgers. Yeah, Polk to Rutgers. My goodness, so close to an exceptional presidential
line this cycle.
So let's quickly talk about what happened this past weekend. 4 guys in, Joel Combe, 6'1", 190, safety. Ben Duncombe, who we talked about last week, defensive lineman out of Austin, Texas. Tony Forney, and Zion Legree. What we've heard a little bit is that Legree seems to be a guy that could be could hopefully commit soon. Heard that Duncombe is probably going to be a little more time, Justin. He's not quite ready to make his decision. How are you feeling about the guys this past weekend?
I feel good about Legree. I would say that I'm really uncomfortable with Duncombe right now, and I think the way I kind of look at it is he's a guy that I think is just looking. He's recruiting is just starting to heat up. There's a chance that some bigger offers come in for him, and suddenly he's just out of reach. When you get through a visit like this and the kid is still kind of not sure how he feels about his recruitment, that's not a great place to be, especially if your team's in Wisconsin. To be clear on this one, Wisconsin kind of slow played this one. This is one where we kind of brought him back in late here, and I look at it as more. This was a mistake by the staff. Like I think the staff this cycle has been a little all over the place with how this official visit season has happened. We've really struggled to have a plan, it feels like. And I don't know how you feel about it, but it seems like we cut off visits that we probably shouldn't have. We don't seem to have a lot of options available to us. And the way I'm looking at it is I would like to see the staff be in a better spot than they are. Duncombe right now, I would say there's a chance they could lock him down. But if I had to put it at a percentage, 25, 30% maybe.
You think it's that low?
I think it's that low because I think we're playing the field. I'm not saying that like we're the low compared to another team. I'm saying we're low because I have no idea where his head's at and how we are in comparison to everyone else that's out there.
Okay.
Like there's been talk of Texas potentially coming in.
Yeah. I wanted to give you guys a quick rundown quickly of the class as it sits right now by position. I think this is important to kind of look at. So we've got one quarterback in, Hopkins. That looks like that we're probably good on that, at least maybe. 2 tight ends, Janda and Sievers. That's solid.
That's
2 offensive linemen, Benjamin Novak and Maddox Cochran. 1 wide receiver and 0 running backs. Right there, big red flags. Like you have in your skill positions there, you've got basically 2 players, Hopkins and Bardo. You need more receivers. You need at least 2 running backs, at least 1, but you got to have something. On the defensive side, 2 D linemen and Arthur Scott and DJ Ba, who, by the way, DJ Ba, whatever. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. I think Nick said DJ works. So
yeah, he said DJ is fine.
DJ Ba has rocketed up to the top, and he's on 247's rankings. He's actually just now under Zach Taylor. 2 linebackers, Reeder and Wenzel, who I really like both of them. 1 cornerback, Carson Elam's, and then 1 safety and Zach Taylor. So I like the linebackers. I like the O linemen. I like the D linemen for that matter. I like the tight ends, but there are some glaring holes from a position standpoint. It's got to be wide receiver and running back at this point, right?
Absolutely.
And then defensive backfield.
Yeah, Greg Lentz, come on here. It's like, could we take 4 wide receivers if they all want to commit to us? If the 4th guy is Pettit, a lot of this would probably depend on the way it all plays out. It gets really interesting if Pettit were to suddenly jump onto Wisconsin. I don't think that's going to happen, but if he were to jump on, then you have to start to look at it, and he probably steals a spot from somebody. But if it goes the other way and the other 2 guys, say Legree and Washington, were both to get in, then I think you take Pettit because I think he's a take no matter what. Like he's that type of player that you just don't pass up the opportunity to get him in.
Dude, Pettit is an automatic sign him up immediately.
Yeah.
Like he is the number. In my opinion, he is the clear top receiver in this potential target list, and it's not close. It's not to
me is a guy that should steal reps next year. Like I don't think there's anybody in the room that I look at and say this guy's going to probably start over him. I actually like him really. It's funny. I think ideally to me, the 3 guys that if I wanted in a rotation would probably be Hilton, Washington, and Pettit. And then you have a guy like Legree who can be a little bit more of a situational. We're going to use him like this, almost, I wouldn't say gadget because I think that does a disservice to his skill set. But I think that he's a little bit smaller than the other guys, and they're just better at some of the other things than he is right now.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think there's some positions that look great. Tight end looks great. And linebacker, Reeder and Wenzel, like really good at the tight end position. So we'll see what happens progressively from here. I think ultimately Legree, everyone feels pretty good about Legree. I'm still saying I feel really good about Washington. We've heard a couple, who knows what Washington's up to, but I've heard very good things about Washington. I absolutely expect him to commit still. So that puts us in a pretty decent spot. Amari Latimer, still a guy that needs to hit that. We need to hit on him. A lot of people are excited about it. We should have canceled Estrada, as Will Hanna says. I loved Estrada. Was my T. Fletcher. Yeah, I mean, it's
some of the funnest film from a running back that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, for sure. The guy's lightning fast. Quick programming note before we move on to the main part of our show today. We started our Know Your Foe series this past week. It went off on Thursday. We're going to make a quick change to that, actually, just to make it a little better for you. Each week, we're actually going to be inviting a podcast host, fan, or journalist from the team we're talking about. They can give way better information than we can, just like we can provide better Wisconsin information. And all of you listening to this can provide better Wisconsin information than a lot of national media or if you're just looking it up on your own. So we're doing Middle Tennessee State the middle of this week. It's going to drop on Wednesday. Sorry, last week was Thursday. We've already done an interview with them. We're gonna get that show together. So every week we're gonna put in a 10-minute segment with another expert, if you will, from that school. So we're really excited about that. We're going to go all the way down the line. Alabama will be next, then through the Big Ten season. But I know obviously Miami, Middle Tennessee State, not the most exciting, but still, they're still teams we play, and it's good to kind of learn a little bit about them, which is great. So look for that dropping every single Wednesday from here on out, and a little bit better of a format than before. Okay, Justin, sure bets and soft spots. I wanted to do this today. Thank you, ChatGPT, for helping me come up with that name. I love that. It's fantastic. Okay, so we're going to go through position by position. Put your stuff in the comments if you're listening live. If you're listening later on the podcast version, throw your comments in. Very intrigued to hear what people have to say. Point of note, this is not just a player. It's anything about that position, whether it's the depth of the room, young players, coaching, scheme, anything about that room that you're feeling really good about and something that you're feeling concerned about. It helps us kind of shape what we're thinking about with this team, because before we know it, the season's going to start, which is super exciting, of course, but also nerve-wracking if you think about it from both sides. Let's start on the offensive side. We usually start with quarterback. We're not going to do that today, Justin. We're going to start with offensive line, okay? Give me something that you're feeling good about. Could be anything, player, scheme, anything, and then something you're not feeling so good about with offensive line.
I feel really good that the young guys are going to be ready next year. In other words, what I mean by that is it feels like there were a lot of guys we actually hit on. I think that long-term for that room, the perspective I have on it is it potentially could be an excellent room. Some of those guys will show us a little bit of that this year. I think guys like Mendel will be out there. It stinks that Haywood's not going to be part of it. As I've said before, I thought the sky was the limit for him. I thought he's a guy who could potentially push for some all-conference recognition as a first-time starter this year. I think you have a strong group there, but the young guys are really, to me, where you look at it and you're like, there's going to be something to hang their hat on here in another year or so.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on obviously Haywood not being there, but let me tell you, he's going to be a redshirt sophomore next year. He's going to have plenty of time to get this right and to get rolling. Very similar to you. For O-line, for me, it's young talent. I wrote down young talent and good experience with Brunner and Malman and Renfro this on the starting line. So obviously the left tackle is a concern, right? But we're all feeling pretty good about Brunner, feeling pretty good about Renfro if he stays healthy, feeling pretty good about Malman. But we also feel good about young talent. My issue, though, the thing I'm not happy about, of course, is the depth. You lose one player and everything is kind of shaken up. The question is, will we see any of that youth in this team? Is there a way that Hardy Watts is out there potentially? Is there a way that, or is Mandel really in the fold this year, more so than last? And do we get any production out of the late Nelsons of the world, the JP Benchawals of the world? Like, depth is a concern. But the thing is, like, on paper, you feel pretty good about the talent you have. You've got 3 returning starters, and you've got two other positions that, yes, there's concerns without Haywood. But if Brunner kicks out, are you happy with someone else at the guard? Like, it is still kind of a push and pull situation with offensive line, which is why I want to start here, because it kind of sets up the entire offense.
I mean, I think the obvious move there is if you push Brunner out, you move Mandel in, and you probably put Kadenko at left guard. So you're going across. You have Brunner, Kadenko, Renfro, Mendel, Malman.
Yeah.
I don't think that's – I think you can get by with that. I think that's a solid to good offensive line. Kadenko is probably the weak spot there in terms of upside. You have a chance that the right side of the line could potentially be dominant as the season goes on, which honestly is what I thought the left side was going to be prior to Haywood going out. I'm like, there's a chance that the left side of the line, you look at across and you're like, Haywood, Brunner, and Renfro, that's a really strong side of the line to be able to run to in a game.
It absolutely is. And there's another thing that I'm feeling, one of my other sure bets with this group right now is AJ Blazek and his ability to continue to stack young talent into this room. As long as AJ Blazek is the O-line coach, which hopefully is a while, we're going to have consistent O-line play, and we're going to have good growth and development at that position, which is, by the way, something that Wisconsin has been known for over the years. We've got tons of linemen in the NFL, and we need to keep that going. And AJ Blazik is the guy to do that. We've got NFL linemen. I think Brunner's going to go to the league. I think obviously Haywood, we know, is going to be playing on Sunday. And I think other guys could make a shout as well, but there's a lot of future development to happen in that room. Okay, let's go switch to quarterback, Justin. For me, my sure bet, the thing that I'm happy about is frankly a vastly improved room and true mobility with Billy Edwards. We thought we were going to have that with Tyler Van Dyke. Obviously that didn't last very long. Braden Locke, there is nothing there. We had it with Tanner Mordecai, but again, he got injured a little bit. But this to me spells we can do different things with this offense. We have a quarterback that can beat you in multiple ways. And that is my sure bet on this room right now. My soft spot is honestly, I hate to even say this because like I don't really feel like there are a lot of soft spots. It's just whether or not, I know this sounds like a lazy take, but whether or not it's really going to work with Edwards and Grimes. Like we think it will, and we're all really confident about Grimes' system that he's bringing in, but you just never know the quarterback. We also thought Tyler Van Dyke was in. We thought Braden Locke was going to be better than he was. So there's always this like
whoa. I never said that.
Fair.
I was angry about him getting the number 2 spot from the start.
That's true. But you just never know. But I guess for the most part, I don't have a lot of soft spots on this. I don't have a lot of soft spots in the quarterback room. I'm pretty confident Edwards and O'Neal, obviously the young Carter Smith to develop. Can Kenny Guyton develop them? That's a question mark. But my sure bet, the mobility of that quarterback and a vastly improved room.
Yeah, I think one of their Jane Toronto just said it, Edwards intangibles. I think the way I look at it is I really like the grittiness of that room. It feels like you have some guys who are willing to just kill themselves to go out there and win games. And I think that that's a huge attitude because that is something that players follow. And every single one of those guys, you go down to Carter Smith. This is a guy who played a couple games with one arm basically in high school. He couldn't throw the ball. And he's going out there and just trying to win football games in Florida without being able to throw because his arm was banged up. Like that type of attitude rubs off on the other players and helps carry the team in general. And especially from the guy who is like, he's your drill sergeant. He's the leader of the group. So when you have that mentality in there, I think it changes everything on the team in general because guys want to follow that type of attitude.
Yeah. Raul Correa says, give O'Neal some love too. He's going to push Billy Edwards to be what he needs to be. Very good point. Iron sharpens iron. Like you know you're going to be pushed from behind when you have a guy that started at San Diego State. And a lot of people really like Danny O'Neal, and we heard a lot of good things coming out of spring. So, yeah, the fact that you've got two guys now that if something happens to Edwards, Braden Locke's not coming in. So that's nice. Bo Dragon. Rajiv put the axe back up. It's cool. No, Bo. It will be put up next November. This coming November, when we beat Minnesota, the axe will go back up and it will live up there as long as we have it. Okay, so let's move on to wide receiver, Justin. What is your sure bet? What are you feeling most confident about this room?
Sorry, I got distracted here by Badger Bournemouth. Put on here said nice to have grit at quarterback, but we don't want that as the main talking point. Listen, I'm not going to go into the physical tools because every quarterback we've brought in since Fickle took over has had some tools. The bigger part of it is the guy a winner, and can he go out there and lead the team, which has been the biggest issue we've had. Mordecai tried. There were a myriad of issues that were involved with that first year team, but that guy killed himself to try and win games for us, and he couldn't get it to happen. You need that type of mentality, and this team badly needs the attitude to kind of get them in the right place. Like you need to have kind of that chip on your shoulder, and if it starts at the quarterback position, that to me is a big deal.
He brings Big Ten experience, by the way. Like that to me is a massive thing. A talking point for him is like, He's played in the Big Ten. We always talk about bringing guys who don't really, how can they match up in the Big Ten? Well, he's done it. He's had good games in the Big Ten. He's beaten big teams in the Big Ten. Now, he's lost to some of the big teams because he didn't have a great team around him.
Yeah.
But I think that you couple Grimes with the offense, all the pieces, the running backs we have behind him. There's pretty something good.
I'm not calling him a Heisman winner, Badger Bournemouth, but the 3 wins was more of a result of the poor team talent around him rather than anything that he was doing wrong. It wasn't like he was ineffective at quarterback. He had an ineffective offensive line, an ineffective running game, and they were a one-trick pony for an offense.
And I think it's a fair point, though, Badger Bournemouth, Kevin. It's a very good, very fair point because we don't know, right? And that's why it's you're always going to have that question mark. But I do think we're in a better spot than we were. Okay, wide receiver, Justin. What are you feeling good about at the wide receiver position?
Speed.
Wrote down the same thing.
Yeah. I think that you have talent that's legitimately capable of being overwhelming to the other team at times. And when I say that, it's because I think Ballard is legitimately a guy who can get on top of a corner and make them really uncomfortable. It's going to be up to us to take advantage of it. But what that does, it changes everything in terms of coverage. Suddenly you're going to have to help over the top of the safety because if you have a corner that's incapable of staying with somebody like that can really run, you're taking guys out of the box. It changes so many things from an offensive perspective, especially when you have 2 guys. And Vinny isn't quite on Ballard's level from a pure speed standpoint, but he is a really refined wide receiver at this point. When we went down to the spring showcase, the thing I took away from it watching it was I'm just like, Vinny's a pro. Like I watch him move on the field. He looks like a guy who's just gets it and is better than the guys across from him. And that was going against the ones. Like he just knew how to get open. He would go out there and do his things. He was very efficient in his movements, and he was capable of just going out there and getting it done.
Before I give you mine, I was on a show with Ryan this past week, and we got the question: Is Vinny Anthony the best wide receiver that this team has had since Brandon Williams? What do you think about that? I said Jared Abbrederis.
I think we're doing a disservice to Abbrederis, who is, if you look statistically at it, was a better wide receiver than Brandon Williams in college. Mm-hmm. You can argue that one was drafted higher, but I think that, to me, Abbrederis is the better college player. I really like Brandon Williams. He was one of the better wide receivers we've had, but it's hard to beat Abby. And I think that I'd say Abby against almost, like, if we looked at the schools in the Big Ten, other than Ohio State, is there anybody that can really say they've had receivers that are significantly better than him? He had 1,100 yards one year, and I think he was like 900 another.
Yeah, for me, I said that Vinny needs to do it again. Like, he has to do it again. Like, he had a great year. He was the best receiver on the team last year, and it wasn't close. Do it again. Because remember, coming into last season, we thought Will Pauling was going to have the year of his life, and he didn't. So, okay, for me, speed and athleticism, wrote the same thing down. There's very clearly, especially when you got a guy like Crowdis, right? Like, you talk about speed. So you've got Ballard, you've got Vinny Anthony, and you've got Crowdis. Those are 3 burners at the wide receiver position. My soft spot here, the thing that concerns me the most, so I'm actually going to put up a couple comments here. Greg Linscomb said we have the speed wide receiver to stretch the field. Steve Kneebone says need offensive line to give time for the receivers to get open. I would flip that and say we need the receivers to be able to actually get separation on their own. We thought that Tretch Kekahuna was going to be able to do that. I think he still will. I think he has a big year. He needs to really show that he can get that separation. So my concern is the real separation ability against top cornerbacks. And can we get a second great year from Vinny Anthony? If we do, if we have guys that can consistently actually get open. Now, we talked about the speed, so they should be able to. The route running should be there, especially with a guy like Tretch. If you can get those guys open and the offensive line is holding up and you've got an experienced quarterback back there, I mean, the ceiling can be pretty high for this offense.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, and I know Bo Dragon was saying they're not going to overwhelm Bama's cornerbacks. It's not about overwhelming them for the entire game. It's can on a given play, can you get by? Both Ballard and Vinny Anthony can get by the Bama cornerbacks on a given play. Can they do it consistently? Probably not. But then again, there's probably not receivers anywhere in college football that can get consistently behind those guys. Even Georgia probably doesn't have a bunch of guys that are going to go out there and consistently light them up. That's where coming across where your offensive scheme comes into play.
Yeah. Zach Bartz, if the speed and route running translates, the wide receivers should be able to get separation. Yes, they should. We've seen that be a problem in the past. Bo Dragon, Tretch looks like he runs in quicksand. I really think Tretch is gonna have a big year. I think this is his year. I may be on the island here with this one. I know people haven't been impressed with Tretch yet. I still believe he can be a real special player. Badger Bournemouth, Hilton seems to have wide receiver instincts. Yes, he does. He learned from the best. He learned from his dad, and it's very clear that he's got that route running ability. Bo, stop waiting for Tretch to be a star. It ain't happening. No, Bo, you're wrong. Often you are not wrong because you're a realist. However, in this case, I believe you are. Justin, running backs. Give me your sure bet and your soft spot at the running back position.
I feel fairly confident in this one. I think Dylan Jones shows that he can be a star. He goes out there. I feel like very confident that he's going to be a productive player, provided he's healthy. Pretty simple to me there.
Yeah, for me, the thing overall is the overall depth of the room. That's the thing I'm most confident in. Like, if we lose a guy, that's okay. Like, we have real depth. You have 3 legitimate starters on this team in Dupree, Jones, and Yak. 100% can start, can carry the load, can be a 20 carry a guy. I mean, I don't want any of them to necessarily be 20 carries a game, but they could be, right? If you need them to carry the load, they can. I don't really have a lot of concerns with this. Honestly, it's can Yak get enough carries to actually make him effective, because we know he can be effective. How will they split? Can they keep the personalities happy? Is that a concern for you, or are you not really worried about that?
I would say my soft spot is can you keep everyone happy and engaged?
Yeah.
You have 3 guys at least that are going to expect to get reps.
So you agree that I think that's a real thing. I mean, look, we live in the age where you get paid, and if you're not happy, you move on. And so I'd like to make sure that all 3 of these guys actually, well, at the very least, the top 2, because Yak is next year is his last year of eligibility, if I'm not mistaken. Thus, we really got to keep those other 2 happy and get them, running. And look, you got to use the talent in the room. This is an interesting one. Tight end. Give me both your sure bet and your soft spot in tight end.
My sure bet is that Akers going to be a better player this year than people expect.
You have been very consistent about saying this.
Yeah, he's going to be the Swiss Army knife for that position, and it's going to be in a variety of ways. It's not going to be just he's going to go out there and get 40 catches. That's not going to be what happens. But he's going to be a guy that's going to absolutely bulldoze as a blocker. He's going to get you a couple of nice, short, probably touchdown runs or first downs this season. And he's a guy who's good enough athletically to get out there and to, if a linebacker doesn't take him seriously, get on top of them and get past them. Like, he's a guy who can do a few things athletically at that position.
So my sure bet at the tight end position is that there's future growth in the room. That's a really bad sure bet, but it's the reality. I'm happy with the Jan and Severs recruits. I'm happy with, the guys like Nazai Davis and Grant Stack, and I think the future will be fine. Right now, I don't feel very highly about this room. I mean, listen, I hope you're right about Jackson Aker. You've been very consistent about talking about him at the tight end position. I don't know that I necessarily agree, and I don't think I've seen enough out of Tucker Ashcraft to get me really excited about Tucker Ashcraft's play. So I'm very concerned about this, truthfully. Zach Bart says Aker at H-back tight end is intriguing. Running back vision and experience with the body of a tight end. If it clicks for him, he'll be fun to watch in this offense. Agree. This offense needs tight end production, okay? If you've got the speed on the outside and you've got the slot with Tretch and Tyrell Henry, if you can get someone else that can open up the middle of the field, if Ashcraft is really going to be there, or if Grant Stack can contribute, it's going to be an important part of it. Honestly, outside of the future growth, I have everything as a soft spot in this room. It's a concern for me, and I do think that this could be that we could get exposed. Like, this is something that's really important to, you have watched a lot more and you know a lot more about Grimes' offense. Do you feel like it's a critical piece of what he did at Kansas?
No, because the guy, listen, I will tell you right now, the guys that we have in this room are more athletic than whatever Kansas had last year.
Okay.
And Kansas
Fair.
was able to function with them and do things with them in a really nice way. The guy they had at H-back last year doesn't hold a candle to Aker as an athlete on the field. It's not close. Like he was kind of a stocky little guy who could get out there and could do some things, but he is not the athlete that Aker is. And that's a massive bonus to us, I think, because you do have more versatility and more expectation of what you can do with Aker in comparison to a guy like that. Now, I think that Ashcraft, I think you're right. Like anyone expecting him to be like incredible this year is just misguided. Like I think he can be solid, and I think that that's fine. What you're looking for is if the plays are there to be made, will these guys make them? I feel pretty good about that. I don't feel good about if you need to lean on this guy and have him pick up a little bit more on his shoulders than what you expect. I don't think either one of them are a guy that I look at and say, we need to be used. This is our game plan. Like the wide receivers, I think we can look at some of those guys and say, yeah, there's some things we can do here. Like if you need Vinny, you need to lean on Vinny and get 10 catches out of him in a game. I think we're fine with that. I don't want to see either one of the tight ends having to get 5 or 6 catches probably.
I mean, I was very excited about Tanner Koziel, and when he decided to leave, I feared. I've been fearful ever since he left, for sure. Okay, Justin, defensive side of the ball. Let's start with D-line. What are your both? Give me both sure bet and your soft spot on the defensive line.
I'm going to start with the soft spot on that one. I'm just going to say this. I don't know if there's anyone that I can look at and say this guy's a star, and that scares me a little bit because you'd really like to have that one guy who you can lean on. And we definitely don't have that necessarily. I do think my sure bet is I think there's a lot of depth in that room. There's a lot of guys that I feel like are going to play at a solid level. The question will there be any shock plays that those guys make? And that's what I need to see. We'll find out going into the season, but I think the standard plays of what we expect to get out of that group is going to be significantly better than it was last year. Whether or not they can be disruptive, that's another story.
So for me, size is number one. We know I'm sure that's actually just sheer numbers you can look. I'm definitely confident that we're going to have more size and we're going to be a bit more aggressive. We're going to be a bit better against the run, basically. We're not going to get bulldozed on every play. Our D linemen are not going to get swallowed up whole by not amateur, that's probably the wrong word. Mediocre mid offensive lineman. Because frankly, that's what was happening. Every offensive lineman with a pulse was able to just neutralize the front of our defense. That I'm very confident will not happen. My concern is how good they're going to be at getting actual penetration. I'm talking about just the down linemen, like more of the your Suggs of the world.
Can they roll up and runs?
Like can you actually get penetration and stop the run effectively? I don't think they're going to get swallowed up. They're going to be much more difficult to running against. But does that make us a good run stopping team? Because we need to be a good run stopping team if we're going to have 7-8 wins against the schedule. So that is I know that's kind of it's a very close kind of take both ways. I know we're going to be better, but I don't know if we're actually going to be a good run stopping team, and that concerns me.
I don't know if I can say good. I think they'll be solid, which I think to me is a substantial upgrade over what we were last year. If they're capable of at least stuffing a run here and there on first down and putting an offense into a bind, that's a massive leap from where we were last year, where that almost never happened. And that was a massive problem. When you're giving up 4 or 5 yards every first down, you're putting the defense in a really precarious spot.
Some comments from the community. Zach Bartz, my sure things, the depth is far better. Is there a star? TBD. Maybe Big Perk steps up. Agree with you there. Perkins really could be the star. But soft spot feels like the room. Right. Soft spot feels like the room is headlined by a bunch of role players without a bona fide star stud. That's kind of what you said. I think that's a very fair take. Raul Correa says, D-line will be our dark horse group. Bunch of guys looking to prove something. The dog that's hungry will eat, and if they lock in, I can see them being destructive. Can you see them being destructive?
I think there are a few guys who I think are capable of doing it, but I need to see it happen. I think Perkins is one of them. He's a guy that I think has some ability to get into the backfield. I think we still feel pretty good about Dylan Johnson. I would say there are people that just don't seem to mention Peterson. I think that he has a chance to be a guy who can do a little bit of that. It was one thing that kind of stood out to me a little bit on his film. And then you have the big guys who are more edges, who it will be really interesting to see. But I think Corey Walker has a chance to do some things. And I really like Michael Garner too. I think those guys have some athleticism that will be a definite step up from what we had.
Listen, nothing would make me happier than to see a dominant defensive line again at this university. Nothing would make me happier. Go Dragon, you can't guarantee that. This is a whack all-star D line. They might be good or suck. We won't know. I mean, you're not wrong. They're not wrong. They absolutely could suck because we've been kind of sucking for a couple years. I really don't believe that's going to happen. I think we're going to be far superior. Okay. Outside linebackers, edge rushers. I kind of grouped them together, whether you're talking about your defensive ends or you're talking about your outside linebackers. Justin, what are you feeling confident in and what are you worried about?
Well, I mean, the middle linebackers are going to be studs.
This is just outside. This is just outside.
Outside?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Soft spot, there's no star here at all. Like, there's nobody that I look at that.
Maybe Nick Clayton. Maybe Mason Rieger.
It's hard for me to put those guys in that spot because we don't even know what we're going to see for playing time. If they were going to turn Clayton loose and let him go, I'd feel a lot better about that one. But there's very limited possibility that I see them being like, hey, you're getting 35 snaps this season per game. That's just not going to happen. So maybe Cheeks gets in there and does some things. You probably have a guy like Witt who's kind of – they're calling him an inside linebacker. He's really not. He's kind of like he's just in space. Like he's a step off the line basically playing outside linebacker. So the way I kind of look at this, you have a bunch of guys who I think are kind of in prove it mode. Honestly, the biggest one would be some of the big guys I feel really good about. And by that, we brought him up a little bit in the last group. I'm talking Corey Walker. I think he's going to be excellent against the run. I think there's more pass rush there than people think. It wouldn't surprise me to see him get like 3 sacks this year. And I think Michael Garner is capable of getting roughly in that range. Like you have a big 6'7" guy who's close to 300 who moves pretty well. I said when we got him, I looked at his high school film and I liked it better than Telemake when he came in. I'm like, he's a better athlete than that guy. And that was somebody who this staff came in and wanted day one. Michael Garner, for whatever reason, just didn't get picked up by anybody. He's a better fluid athlete than that. And I think that he's capable of being a guy who offers some things that are unexpected from where we got him.
Patrick Wormans asks for a Rieger update. Update seems to be that he's going to be ready for fall camp. So yeah, the good news on Rieger, Mason Rieger out of Louisville. Yeah.
If you're looking for positivity, the guy's Instagram feed is like nothing but positive quotes and stuff like that of him, how hard he's busting his butt. There is nobody here. I'll give you my sure take. There is nobody that wants to come out and dominate more than that guy does at outside linebacker. That guy is an intense dude. And I feel like if he comes back, he's the type of guy you get in that room that carries everybody else. Because he seems to have that mentality of I'm here to work and I'm here to kick butt.
Yeah, agreed. So for me, my sure bet here is that we're going to have more bodies and more athleticism. So we know Nick Clayton and Rieger are going to be involved, Walker. Like there's going to be, the scheme is probably going to be a bit of mix. We're not really necessarily looking at 2 down linemen and 4 linebackers. We're going to be looking at, there's going to sometimes be, you got 4 down linemen with, maybe Rieger on the ends, Walker on the end. We're going to have a little bit more creativity in getting pressure. That I believe is a sure bet. And you're going to have more bodies and you have more talent with Nick Clayton in the room. My concern, truthfully, is Matt Mitchell. I mean, that's just a concern of mine, Justin. Like, I feel like we haven't seen a lot out of Matt Mitchell coaching the outside linebackers. That makes me a little bit concerned. And that's honestly my soft spot in this group. I'm happy about the talent that's in.
Do you think, I'm going to ask you on this, do you think that Sebastian Cheeks takes a step this year? Because, I mean, I think it was lost a little bit that last year was his first time playing that position.
And I will say that as the year went on, Sebastian Cheeks did improve. So to answer your question, yes, I think he is the most likely to take a step at that position, given the fact that if you look at it from game 1 to game 12 last year, he made improvement. He should take that step. And if he does, and you've got you've got Cheeks on one side, Peterson's still there, you've got Reiger, you've got Clayton. We should be better off, but I get a little concerned with the coaching, just to be honest. Okay, inside linebacker, you started touching on them. Not a lot of soft spots here. This is a pretty good area for us.
I love the starters. I love the depth there. This is the one position probably on the entire team that I look at and say we almost have too many bodies. It's almost problematic we need to find a way to get some of these guys on the field. I love the two starters. I think that you look at Tacky Curtis and you look at Allegro and you say these guys have a chance to be as good as some of the previous linebacker groups that we've had, just running around causing havoc. Behind them, you have obviously a young guy in Catalano. You have Turner. You have some of the other guys that are out there in Gauthier and
Heiberger.
You have
Mason Posa.
Yeah, I was getting to him. Also Tyler Jancy. Like, there's a whole bunch of guys that you feel good about just getting on the field in that group, and that's why I say that group is loaded, because there's a ton of guys who I think you could actually play that I don't think you'd feel unhappy putting them out there. Like, you'd be like, okay, this guy will be fine. He may lack some of the big playability, but I think he'll get the job done.
I don't have any soft spots in this group. This is all sure bets to me. This group is a sure bet. Yeah. Christian Allegro is the best defender on this team. Christian Allegro is going to be a first-team All-Big Ten, and I'm telling you right now, don't be surprised if he's an All-American. Christian Allegro is an incredible player, and haven't seen it a ton yet, but have heard so far this year that Tacky Curtis has taken the step. You saw him play. Like, look, Tacky Curtis, this could be his year. Remember how excited we were to get Tacky Curtis and how excited USC were to get Tacky Curtis. I mean, this is that kind of a player. You could have a truly bona fide inside linebacker group that is just dominant. And we already just went through everyone that's in that room. The room is heavy. The coaching is solid. The star power is there. You've got one of the top recruits in the number one recruit in the 2025 class, as far as I'm concerned. And by rankings, he is the number one in Mason Posa. Lot to be excited about here.
And Mr. October play, lots of them rotate often. The top two guys are good enough that I don't think you're going to do that. I wouldn't be shocked if it's something like a 75-25 kind of split with whoever's the backups coming in just here and there to spell them. But I don't think you want to take Tackett and Allegro off the field. I think they could be that good. Like, you're potentially looking at two guys that look like a couple of pros.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, you can have schemes with 3 or 4 of them out there. You know, you can have more of them on the field potentially. Like, there's going to be a lot of versatility with this group. There's a lot of good athletes there. Let's look at secondary in general, safeties and cornerbacks, Justin, because you can kind of look at them cohesively. There's some question marks here. Give me your sure bet. I'll go first on this one. Sure bet for me is Ricardo Hallman has a renewed year. Like, last year, he was one of those guys that, similar to Will Pauling, great year before, came in last year, kind of sputtered a little bit. I think Rico Hallman is ready to take a step and ready to go to the NFL. And I think he is going to come to play, knowing that he probably doesn't even have his playing partner in Isaiah Forker, and that's still not decided yet, by the way. So we could have a situation where it's Hallman and anybody else, name your player, Latimer, Agard, someone, or it's Forker. But my sure bet is Hallman is going to have, I think, 3 or 4 picks this year. I think he's going to kind of come in with a lot of swagger. He's going to be teaching young guys, and he's going to be preparing for the next level. He knows this is his last shot. He has to show the league what he can do. That's my sure bet. My soft spot is frankly pretty much everything else. Forker, and you just don't know about. I know you're excited about Agard. I know we're both excited about guys like Latimer and Hill and what they can provide. But I mean, we're going up against the 2 top wide receivers in the country in Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. I don't think anyone on our team is going to stop them. From a safety perspective, I kind of am along the same lines. We've got that one guy in Zachman, but there's everybody else. It's a big question mark.
I mean, the thing about that, Rajiva, is you can look at that and say nobody else is going to be able to do it either.
Fair.
So you look at it and you're just like, the expectation is like those aren't the guys you're setting your bar for. It's everybody else. You're looking at, can they stand up and do a good quality, high quality job against the other teams that are going to be on our schedule? I think they can. Oregon's a team that, is going to be stung a little bit too. I think they lost their best wide receiver. He's out for the season. So some of the teams that we worry about the passing game a little bit, there's some chance there that we're going to have some flexibility and these guys can play up a little. I think they're going to be a strong group overall. So my sure bet, honestly, is I think the safeties are going to be kind of a unsung hero this season. I think they're going to be both really good. I really like Brown and Zachman on the back end to be able to kind of be a stabilizer up for the defense in general. I think that the soft spot you'd say is experience at corner. Mm-hmm. Behind the starters, you're kind of look at it and you're like, most of these guys didn't get a ton of reps. Agard, I love. I think he's got all the talent in the world, but I don't know. He's going to be kind of a guy who is going to grow during the course of the season. So if for whatever reason Forkerine isn't allowed to play, I think that Agard is going to be a solid player as a starter. And people that are kind of discounting this group, I kind of look at it and I'm like, listen, we started worse corners. Even with Agard out there, we've started worse corners than what you'd have in Hallman and Agard in the past 10 years. So people need to chill out a little bit. There's more talent there than we give credit to. There is a lack of experience. So you have a couple of guys like we have. I know we've talked about Latimer and Hill, who are experienced players. The upside isn't necessarily there as high as some of the other guys. But I do think I really like Latimer as a slot corner. But I think you look at that group, and I think it's one that we would expect to grow quite a bit during the course of the season if those guys get an opportunity. But it's definitely a soft spot right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that – so there's a lot of comments here about pressure, and you're absolutely right. We have to generate more pressure to help out this secondary. Like,
oh, absolutely.
We cannot have a year. What did we have? Like some ungodly low number of TFLs last year. It was like 3.5 or some nonsense like that. We've got to generate real sacks, real TFLs, real pressure, disruption. That's a word we love to use on this show because it doesn't happen enough. If you can actually do that, then you can use Emilio Agard's athleticism. You can use the tenacity and toughness that Zachman and Brown have at safety, and you can use the star power of Hallman. But none of it works if you're not getting any pressure. And I think this year we're feeling a little bit more confident about our ability to get pressure. Overall, Justin, like kind of looking at the team overall, what would you say from anything from top down, coaching, anything, your sure bet and soft spot are overall for this team?
Sure bets. I think the offense is going to be kind of a revelation compared to what we've seen the last two seasons, and that it is going to be far better than what we experienced last year. Soft spot, I will say it could be that, and we still may not be, overly competitive in terms of the league. And what I mean by that is record-wise, it's not going to matter. Like, we're not going to be able to finish 9-3. Like, we're going to be a team that's probably going to be our ceiling is probably 8-4. And hey, if that's the step, that's great. We'd all be happy with that, I think. But it sucks knowing that that's probably your ceiling. Looking at a year, we could be really good, and yet it won't matter because we'll be 8-4.
Which we would take. We would all take that.
Absolutely. That would be a massive sign that things are going in the right direction. Yeah.
My sure bet is the solidity up front, the solidity offensively, as far as being able to run the ball a little bit more. We got way too far away from what made Wisconsin what it is. That means stopping the run and running the ball. I feel much more sure that we are going to be a higher floor, solid team that's going to be able to compete. We're bigger, we're stronger. We've got athletic players all around. My soft spot from the team overall, and I think someone just said it here, Steelbird, JT, maybe Tressel is the weak spot. Yeah. I mean, I think Mike Tressel was what he's the holdover, right? He's the guy that's still there
on the hot seat right now to prove that was an aberration.
And we've gotten bigger. We've already gone through that. We've talked about the size that we have now, so it should be better. But this is year 3 of Mike Tressel's defense. If the year 3 of Mike Tressel's defense does not deliver a defense that's even remotely close to a Wisconsin-style defense, then he's got to go. And that is the biggest soft spot for this team is, can we be good against the run, right? Because we think we can. We have the talent that we should be able to, but you just never know until you actually see it out there. Last year, we thought we'd be better too. We were wrong. Let's see if hopefully we're better this year. But I do think on the flip side of the ball, running the ball and being solid and being that ground and pounds type of an offense that can move the ball down the field, very, very confident in that being our sure bet. Okay, Justin, let's go to the last section of our show here. Talk quickly about the NCAA violations. I'm going to just read you a little bit of a summary here. So the recruiting violations are self-reported, first off, in 2023. 9 Badger staffers made 139 phone calls to 48 recruits before the designated contact window, constituting level 2 violations. Most were brief, with 60 under a minute. The NCAA ruled that Wisconsin's coaching staff, unfamiliar with the changing rules, self-reported the issue in 2023, and after its compliance system caught the infractions. So the penalties are 1 year probation for the football program, a $25,000 fine, and show cause penalties for former coaches Greg Scruggs and Max Steinecker. Well, they're gone. And Scruggs also has a 2-month recruiting ban and 1 game suspension, I think. And then Fickle and Mitchell are barred from contacting recruits for like a 6-day period. All in all, Justin, we self-reported. It's a basic small slap on the wrist. Certainly our rivals are trying to make a big deal about this, but calm down, because every school has recruiting violations. We were just good enough to actually self-report. What are your thoughts overall?
Yeah, my thoughts are it's a kind of a big nothing burger. I think people will look at it from opposing teams and try to use it, but it is what it is. It's whatever, especially reporting it yourself. Like, it's not like we tried to hide it. Part of the issue with what happened at Michigan with the hamburger situation was they didn't try to put that through. They tried to hide it. And that's what led to the problems that they had. Big part of this is if you make a mistake, own up to it and take care of it. And I think that this staff did that, which is important. It's phone calls. It's whatever. I just don't see it as being a massive issue here. The 7 days, honestly, is kind of inconsequential because you just have other guys pick up the slack on that. And then you make your calls after it.
So I actually think this turns out to be a really good thing for us because when you self-report and you get your hand slapped by the NCAA, they're not coming after you again for something for a minute or two. They've got a lot of schools they're trying to deal with. They have basically no authority anyway, it seems like these days. So when you self-report and you take your licks and you move on, it puts you in a position where you've got a bit of an advantage in the sense that the other schools who haven't got their wrist slapped are now going to be looked at. Maybe the things that we self-reported, now they're going to go out and find teams that are having those infractions who didn't self-report, and they get a bigger slap on the wrist. So I'm always fine with accepting a few penalties here and there from the NCAA. If it keeps them happy, the NCAA feels like they have power, yippee. They go, yeah, yes, we're all in mighty, powerful NCAA. We're going to give you this fine and you can't make any calls for 7 days. Okay, fine. But then leave us alone for a while and go deal with someone else. So I'm not bothered by it one bit. And I think it actually means that we can just kind of settle down and not worry about things like that for a while. I'd much rather have the self-reported $25,000 fine and you can't make a few calls. I mean, the two people that it affects the most, Steinecker's at USC, Scruggs is gone. He's Michigan, right? Is he at Michigan? So like,
no, he got fired.
He's gone. He got fired. That's right. So it doesn't really affect us at all. And that's exactly the kind of NCAA violations we want to have. We want to get violations that really have no actual impact on the future of the team. So I'm good with that. Reminder, we will be back on Wednesday to do Middle Tennessee State Know Your Foe with a Middle Tennessee State podcaster, which is really good. He gave some great information. We're going to drop that into our show as well. Justin, final thoughts before we end this show today.
I am really ready for the season to be starting up again. I know that the youngins made it to campus this last week.
Barbecue.
Yeah, the barbecue. I'm talking like the incoming freshmen who came in finally and are on campus. Now it's get to work, get your workouts in, and get ready because camp starts next month.
When does camp start? Do you have the date?
Late July is when it's going to be. When the actual season, like practices start, but I think they start doing some of the OTA type stuff in July.
Okay. Yeah. Lots to get excited about, honestly. And yeah, we're basically like 11 weeks away. So there's lots of things to get pumped about and just feel like we're moving in the right direction, hopefully. Happy Father's Day to everyone out there. Thank you all for joining us. Again, check us out midweek for Middle Tennessee State Know Your Foe, and the next week, Alabama. With that, thanks for joining us, and on Wisconsin.
On Wisconsin.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, subscribe to our YouTube channel at The Bucky Report or The Bucky Report Podcast from wherever you get your content. Until next time, on Wisconsin.